So the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is what you need to have before you brief a branding agency or designer for your logo. Well, the answer isn't nothing, but it might be less than you thought. It can be really helpful for you to do different exercises, whether from webinars or you've seen online different things where you're thinking about your business USP and your audience and the type of look and feel you like. That is important. But what's most important is that you really understand your business, where you want it to be, and who your customer is. If you understand those three things, you don't need to come to us with a whole load of homework or files. That's really all we need. So our process is designed so that we help eke out all the things that we need for our brief from you in our discovery session. So we'll take 1 or 2 sessions with you to really immerse ourselves in your business and understand it at the beginning before we go anywhere near looking at the graphics for your brand. So a lot of the time people come with thorough briefs, and that's fantastic, that's great. But please don't be offended that we will create our own. And I wanted to explain why. So the brief that the customer writes is really interesting, but often it can be a bit broad, either a bit broad or a bit narrow. So I'll explain what I mean. So by a bit broad, often they've written a business plan, really, but they've called it a brief. And it's just a brain dump of useful information and notes that they've brought in as they're setting up their business. URLs of competitors, ideas for packaging, colours and logos that they like, some market research, feedback from focus groups, playing about with names. And that is a really useful document, but that won't be sufficient for us to use with our graphic designer. So what we do is that we create a brief that's set up on a template that I wrote very closely with my graphic designers when I first set up the business, that is designed to understand your business, your USP, your competition, which of those you're most worried about and why, the look and feel of your competition, your mission as a company, and your audience, which is vital. Understanding your audience is so much of branding. So I have an exercise that many of you, if you've worked with me, will know, where I have lots of different hypothetical people profiles. There are 25 cards, and you have to go through and select 3 who represent your audience, and then tell me who they are to your business, how they find you, and what your business does that serves them. And it's a really, really valuable exercise, but we do that and we put that in our brief. Our brief also touches on the look and feel, but we don't go for a prescriptive method where we say which colours and styles do you want. Instead, we say, what perception do you want your brand to create? How do you want people to feel when they come across your website? Those are the kind of questions we ask, and that's why we write our own brief before we go ahead and brief a designer. So that's the other thing that sometimes customer briefs can do, is they are too rigid in what they want. I understand completely why, but it's a misconception to think that if you ask for exactly what you want, you'll save money. Because actually, when it comes to working with a branding agency that does things with a bit of depth to it, like we do, that takes a deeper look at your business to come up with the branding, then we're going to question that anyway. So if you have a brand colour of purple, say, in mind, and you say that what you want is a purple rectangular logo with a gold signature font, then it's not going to save you any money with us if you briefed us that way. You could brief so many other people online that way, but it's not our ethos. It's not our ethos because if we haven't come up with something creatively stimulating, how do we know we've offered you any value? If we haven't looked into who your business serves, how do we know that the idea that you have is right for it? Even though it's your business, a lot of the time people get guided by their own personal tastes. And also, it sounds like, in that particular example, that person was quite inspired by what's already on the market. And while it's good to see things and get inspiration, we want your business to be unique. So we would always challenge that in any case. So to come back to the point, when it comes to being ready to brand, you need to have some budget set aside. Tell your designer, talk to them honestly about what that budget is. I would definitely recommend you go to the utmost you can for this, because this is the foundation. This is like the first brick you lay of your house, the foundation of your business and how it's perceived. You can redo your website, you can scale back on packaging at the beginning and just do things more cheaply, but your brand, getting your brand right is so important in how people perceive you. So as I've said before, you can brand cheaply. In fact, you don't even need to spend much money on branding if your USP is just that you were the cheapest on the market. But in any other situation, if you have any other USP at all, and especially if you charge more than your competitors, then branding is key. It's imperative that you get your branding right. The next thing that you'll need to make sure that you have is some time and some energy for the process. So you'll either be invited in to have meetings with us, which is preferable, or we can do it over Skype, and there'll be some calls and emails as well. So it's good to make sure that you have some time to review the designs. That said, you don't have to block out a month in your diary because you're doing your branding. We are pretty realistic. We work with entrepreneurs all the time and we know how busy you are. Just putting aside some time and letting us know when that will be is fine. Just so that we know that when we send over designs, we don't expect you to look at them immediately, but we know that you've taken the time to really review them is really important to the process. So I hope that was helpful and reassured you that you don't need to have written a huge business plan and really nailed out everything in your brand before you come to us. The thing is understanding where you want to be, what your vision for the business is, and who your customer is and what makes you unique. That's all we need.